Okay, so I'm starting the recording right now. All right, here we go on to the next one. All right, so here are specific strategies. All right, I'm gonna try to, okay. First, oops. Okay. Did we go over these already? Does anyone remember if we did building community? Yes, no.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll start. All right, so every child should have a cubby. And some of you all have AM and PM sessions. And even though you have AM and PM sessions, every child should have a cubby with their picture and their name on it. So both their picture and their name should be written. Usually we start with first name, and then as the year progresses, we'll add their last name to it. Their picture. And so this is where I had shared before when kids start the school year to take a picture of, do a headshot and then do a full body shot, because you'll be using these pictures as we go through the course of all this information. I do that at least twice a year, and the reason is because when they start the school year, they're so little, and then when they get towards the March and April and May, they grow so much, and so I do it twice a year because of the changes that happen to their physical body. So every child should have a space. In some classrooms, what they do is they have bins like this that I have here. They're clothes organizers that I bought from Amazon. And the reason why I did this is because these are expensive. And when teachers are looking to put cubbies into their classroom, and you look at those wooden locker cubbies, we're talking like, $500, $600, $700, a matter of 10 of them. So I went and purchased these for like $40, and there's one set here, and then there's another set on the other wall when we had our model classroom. And so this space, just as an FYI, is for them to put items. Maybe you have a different space for a backpack. That's totally fine. It could be for backpack, for jacket, it could be for their stuff that they're working on at school, their papers. This personal space is critical in early years and older. I believe that older now more and more that I'm working with big kids. And the reason is because particularly if you have kiddos who come, and this is my lens, where my lens comes from crises. If you have kiddos in foster, kiddos who have lost homes, if you have kiddos who don't have a personal space in the home, this is a sense of ownership, safety. That's the underlying message as to why we do this. All right. And so what I was saying is that what teachers do, well, they'll flip the bucket so that there's a picture on one side and a picture on the other, so children take everything home that's in their cubby. Other teachers have two little containers with the picture on one side because they have lockers, and not lockers that open close, but open completely, and they have a picture on the other side, so kids share that, but even though it's divided. One of the things that often have to just be mindful of is that, that cross-contamination that can happen with jackets and backpacks. And so we just have to be aware of that, because that's been a more prevalent issue, is the issue of, we've always had lice issues of them jumping from backpack to coats and that sort of thing. But the thing that happens now more days is bed bugs that has come up more frequently. So we want to just be mindful of those materials that are kept separate. Here are the 3 classroom rules. We take care of ourselves, we take care of each other, and we take care of our things. These are the rules that we start at the beginning of the school year. We don't know how to read at this point in the game. So what we do is we take pictures. We take pictures of children living these rules. Pretty much everything falls with these rules. So how do we take care of ourselves? We take photographs of children washing their hands after they blow their nose.
Dropping it.
Strategies. Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop share real quick. And
you want to watch TV? Yes.
Okay. All right. So then let's get back. Let me get back to the PowerPoint. Okay. All right. Okay, hopefully I got everybody with me still. I went and muted everyone, so we should be good. Okay, so 3 rules. We take care of each other, we take care of our things, we take care of ourselves, we take photographs as the year progresses. So it's not just a one-time deal. We don't do it in the beginning of the year. This is what I call a living document. We are consistently saying to children, let's capture ways that we take care of each other. What does that look like in our classroom? What does it look like to take care of our things? And you just keep adding those pictures. Now, I want to make very clear, they don't have to be printed anywhere. They don't have to be fancy pretty. They could be black and white on a regular black and white copier in your copy machine thing. It doesn't have to be aesthetically beautiful. The idea is to really just capture ways to understand what it means to live these rules. All right, the next one, and you guys have done this. We've talked about this. And I think we did this already because I'm talking to you all about this. Children have their own name, and this is by consensus only because little kids don't understand why 13 of us voted yes, 14 of us voted no. They don't understand why we lost. They just don't understand it. So it needs to be with consensus. What's our name going to be? And remember, I shared with you, I don't like this flag. And the reason why I don't like this flag is because it's teacher made. It doesn't really represent who they are as children. So I'm going to go into the next one. This one represents children. This one is made by children, you can tell. This classroom called themselves Rainbow Pickles. And so this is their classroom flag. So we take the name and I address children by that name. So I go, okay, Rainbow Pickles, it's time to go outside. Or okay, Rainbow Pickles, what are we going to do to solve this problem? So I address them by this name, which is kind of solves that whole we're not friends sort of situation, where we use friends as a general sort of way to address children, address them by their name. Now your AM and your PM are gonna have 2 different names. And so you wanna, and the flag is kind of cool if you, when we actually used to walk with our flag going to the playground and we'd have like bins of sand, like those 5-gallon buckets with sand, just put the flag in there. And it really kind of created this cohesion that we're in it together sort of experience. All right, the next one. Photos to convey community. You want to find a place in your room where you can put every child's picture, okay? So it needs to look like a community. It needs to look like we belong together. This is who we are, Rainbow Pickles. And if you see the scarf holder on the right-hand side, there are holes that are empty. Kids come through the entire school year. Sometimes at this time of school year, even in May, you get a who's there for, a couple weeks. So you want to make sure you have space to add children, and you want to make a commitment that you add children. It's your birthday board, or we are part of the community board. If you do, I don't know if you guys, anyone's nap times, but their nap times materials, all of the things that every child has to be done within a week. Their cubby space should be immediately, because the message is, glad you're here. You're an important member of our community. So you need to have a space. It could be on the door. It could be on a wall. It could be hanging. It's completely up to you. But the message is, we are here together. Next one is having a friends and family photo space. Now, this one's a little tricky because you want to get as many family members as you can, not family members, but families posted. Many of us don't print out pictures anymore. We have them all on our phones or in the cloud, but we don't take the time to print them out. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of extra effort to ask parents if you could either go to their social media page and make a copy of it. You could just do a screenshot and print it out. Again, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be in color. You just want a space where it is people who are important in children's lives. Now, you have to be mindful if you have kiddos in the foster care system, if you have kiddos that, that family situation is a little bit tricky. You want to be mindful of that. You want to be respectful of their family situation, but you want children to feel, it's supposed to feel, our classrooms are supposed to feel like a unified experience for children, that work in partnership with families, because families are their first teachers. And so we are working in union, and we respect and honor where they come from. Okay? So that's an important thing to include in your classroom. All right, daily sign-in process. This has first and last name because this is a kindergarten classroom. Preschool classroom, we would just do first name at the beginning of the year. And every child would sign in. And so there are lots of reasons why this is important. The first is you get to do an observation of where they are developmentally. You can see what they hold a writing utensil. How are they doing that? Can they do that? It's some kids drawing a line, and it's not even a line where their name is supposed to go. It's just, and so when we do this, date it, and I usually had a day stamp, and I would just stamp it on there, and I would file that away. And what happens when you're using Teaching Strategies Gold, get to see the progression. You know, you get to have data, you're collecting data from the time that they first started signing in, and now in January, the child's actually writing his name. Now the letters may not be, you know, going in the direction they're supposed to, they'll be random, but we've got some letters going on here. And so that's a really good thing to collect in terms of looking at their progression of learning. Now, having said that, we do 4 of these or 5 of these because you don't want a bottleneck. You don't want those to kind of be stuck waiting for their space to sign in. You want to break it down so that they're split. Sometimes, and I'm going to show you another way to sign in, but again, this is all, it's not just the literacy piece to it, the developing their ability to, you know, practice with a writing tool. The other piece that's really important, it's the next slide, I believe it's the next slide, is that it's a transition for children from home to school. The transition from home to school can be tricky for some children. It is, all things can happen in the morning. That could be anywhere from frantic to very organized and easy to, oh my goodness, I lost my keys and we forgot this. And then in the more difficult circumstances, it could be, you know, a really challenging experience for kids just because moms, dads, family members are stressed out and overwhelmed. So what happens is when we have these types of processes, we help children transition from home to school. It shifts their brain, that I can have a different experience. Even though what I had over here was crazy and overwhelming and really, really hard, I can shift my brain now into a different experience. And so this process helps them be able to do that. This is another way. This is a daily check-in process. So you move your name from, and I would say, and I say this all the time, and I don't, got to get a different picture. If you have kids who are experiencing homelessness at home and at school, may not be a good idea. It may be present or here, not here. Lots of ways to do this. In preschool, you want to add their picture. So Sean needs to have a picture of Sean right next to it. And so they move it over from at home to at school as a transition into the classroom so that they can get ready for the day, okay? And then as the year progresses, I pull the picture off. And then as the year progresses again, and we already know and identify our names, I add last names. And let's say they already can figure out my first and last name. They recognize that. I'll just do last names. So then they'll recognize just their last name. So it's a progression, kind of like everything else is. All right, next one. Class rituals. This ritual is ritual. I know we've talked about this one before. These are just some examples of ways to greet children in the morning. In the beginning of the school year, a teacher or teachers can rotate. A greeting, formally greet a child, and it needs to be by their name, down at their level. These are a couple different ideas. Oh, we have a chat. We have a question here. All right, you're having trouble hearing me. Let me see if I can increase my, and that might be on, make sure that you have your volume up. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I'm wondering if it might be on your end. Yeah, so I'm getting yes. Okay, and I just moved my mic over closer to me. So I'm hoping that you can hear me okay. Mess around with your own volume, okay? I'll try not to move around so much, but you know how I move around a lot. So I'll put them closer to me so I can move around. All right. Okay, so check to see. All right, let's see if with the mic here, if that'll help. Okay. All right, so the processes for greeting. You can go online, go onto Pinterest. Let's come to Conscious Discipline. So if you go to Conscious Discipline and you go to Pinterest and say ritual or welcome rituals, there are a lot of ways teachers have done this. The way that I did it as a classroom teacher was, would you like a handshake, high five, smile, or a hug? Those were my go-tos. And the hug is really for people and for children that we know. So you want to make sure, because we're trying to create healthy boundaries and healthy parameters. And for kiddos who have some attachment issues and concerns, a lot of them hug everybody and they don't know them. So we want to make sure that we're teaching them that we don't know her just yet. And I think I was in, I was in the classrooms recently before all of this went down. I had a little girl who kept following me around and kept wanting to hug me. And so I kept saying to her, we don't know each other yet, but you can give me a high five. You can sit next to me. So I gave her ways to be close to me, but she didn't really know me. Well, she didn't know me at all, so she shouldn't be hugging on me. So at the end of the day that I was in there, we played a lot together. And so because of that, I gave her a hug at the back end of the day. So we want to teach those healthy boundaries. And again, it's an attachment red flag if kids are overly affectionate with people that they don't know. And the reason, or not the reason, but what happens is at 14 and 16, if they still don't learn those healthy boundaries, it gets dicier, it gets unhealthier, right? It's worse. So we want to help them learn that. So look up, you can make it however creative that you want. I had a teacher I work with, and she's like, not very creative. So she made the one with the sign there, and she had one of those magnetic doors, those metal doors. And so she just did on the outside of her door, and she just made sure that she greeted every child by name down at their level. So not honey, not sweetie, not pumpkin, down, so you're making eye contact. All right, let's go on to the next one. Sit-upons for children. So sit-upons are space definers. I always use this for kids, and the reason is because I get to move them around as I need, but there should be, and let me back up. All it is in this picture is a 12 by 12 scrapbook of paper. It's the cardstock. And kids draw a picture, and then you can laminate it or just use the, geez, I'm forgetting what it's called, but the sticky stuff on it, it'll come to me. But if you laminate it, make sure you have good laminating film, because I've seen cheap laminating film and it'll curl up sometimes. So we do them using, some teachers do it twice a year. I always just did it once, and it's amazing. Within 3 or 4 days, kids know whose is whose. And I try to make sure, or I try to find the best place for children to sit, because I want kids to be successful. And so I figure out where is it that they can sit so they can work, so they can pay attention and be engaged in a way that is appropriate. So if you notice, there's a wiggle seat on one of them. We want to make sure that if a child needs a wiggle seat, that they have that. So that they can just wiggle a little as they are sitting. And you can use that in unison with the pond. At the bottom here, the little box, you'll see pictures of children. This particular children or teacher, that the pictures were on the back side of the sit-upons that are laying there. Every morning I would set them out, and then eventually children will help set it out. And if Amanda's having a really tough day, maybe something happened at home, maybe she's just having a difficult time transition, I can move Amanda right next to me. So I put my arm around her and I can engage her so that she can stay focused because she feels safe and connected. And that's the reason why we use them, is because we can move them around. You will notice too, and I don't know, I think in a couple slides later, that we do a circle or around the perimeter for our morning meetings. That conveys the message that we are a community. And so we want to make sure that children are practicing the process of listening to one another and being able to take turns speaking. Huge part of the development in preschool and kindergarten years. All right, and this is especially true for your English language learners and your kids who are who are working on developing language. We'll talk more about that in a little while. This next one is the Wish You Well board. So Wish You Well, and I know I did this with you all already. The Wish You Well board is recognizing who is not here today. This is an example of the Wish You Well board, pizza pan. You can put photos, they're all on magnets. You put photos on magnets and you move it when a child is absent the day into the center where the heart is. I never did this. This came out after I was in the classroom. And you notice the teachers have their own as well. So teachers have to be in that, or any grown-up that comes in on a regular basis. And so I usually just use my sit-upon. So whatever sit-upons were empty, we knew the child wasn't here that day. So we would get up and we would sing, "We wish you well. We wish you well, all through the day, we wish you well." And so it was our way of saying that we are thinking about you and that you are an important member of our classroom community. All right. This one, we will miss you ritual. This is we will miss space on the wall. So when a child leaves for the school year, children don't know the difference between gone forever, on for a day. They don't. That's why in March, when you see who's not here today, they say the kid who came like for 2 weeks at the beginning of the school year. They're like, he's not here. And you're like, yeah, he's not coming back. The worst is when they actually do come back. And you're like, dang it. That didn't, might help try to understand this. So what you do is you take the picture from your community board where we are all together and you put it in a separate space. And we call it the We Will Miss You. And a heart, you can do whatever you want with it, but the idea is to hold them in our heart. They are no longer in our classroom, but we still hold them in our hearts. And the other piece to this, I think that's really important, is that they that want to include the adults. So let's say you have an assistant teacher, a paraprofessional, a special educator who has moved on, who maybe had a baby and decided not to come back to work. You want, once they leave, because they're important members of the classroom community, you want to make sure that their picture's up there as well. Okay. Question about sit-upons. Should they lay flat, or is a cushion acceptable? Also, they're permitted to move with, or is expectation that they sit in the, good question. All right, so first one, they should be flat and they shouldn't be a cushion. So, this is really, and I'm not saying like they have to be, if you have kids' names on it and they get to decorate it, that's amazing. But the idea is ownership. The idea that it's mine. And so, you know, back in the day, and some of us might still do it, we have those carpet squares, carpet samples that we would get. Those, in terms of devices, it's not a horrible thing. The reason why we do sit-upons is because this is my space. This is my personal bubble, right? And so that's why we use the sit-upon specifically. And children need to sit where we put them. So it's not an option for, and then you have to teach them not to use them like skates, because what they'll do is they'll put their feet on them and they'll start skating on them because they have, you know, they're laminated. So I actually am very excited about sit-upons. We talk about what they are, and I go, you know, it might put it on your head, but actually where they go is on the floor. They go underneath our bottoms. Show you how we do that. I'm very, very explicit about how we use the sit-upons. So it's not one that we, you don't move around, you don't to slide on them, you don't get them on your head. And that's a process like that. They just know how to let one kid start skating on them, and they're all going to do it. So it's just being consistent with how we use the sit-upons. If you cut up an old yoga mat, they do not slide. If kids are excited, jump on them. You could get yoga mats. That would be amazing. Like get yoga mats and cut them out and let them decorate them. That would be a very, very cool thing. Like they get to have that as their own. I really like that idea. All right, so we'll go on. Authentic calendar. So, I don't know if I shared this one with you guys. So in childhood, I mean, forever and a day, we've done calendar with kids. And what we know children, especially children that you are working with at 3 to 4 years of age, don't understand tomorrow, yesterday, and today. They don't get it. You ask 3 when it happened and they night. They don't have an understanding of the 24-hour period. And we think that the more and more we show them this number is the second and then the third and then the fourth, that they're somehow going to magically get it, when developmentally they just don't understand the 24-hour period. Now, we start to get that at the latter part of second grade. Kids get it sooner than others, no question about that. But in general, when we look at the development and progressions, it's not until second grade that they start to actually have the language and understanding of when something's going to happen. When I was a classroom teacher, I'd actually say in 3 sleeps it's going to happen, because at least they understood I go to sleep one time, I go to sleep the second time, okay, it's going to happen after that second sleep. So we recognize that this is substantiated by research. I always forget this man's name. I want to call him a name that he isn't. But he is a math guru in the field of early childhood education. And he's speaking specifically to older children. But because if it's not bad, it's not a good idea for older children, then it's a good idea for preschool. Speaking specifically to kindergarten, first and second grade, it's a waste of time. He says that the only children who are paying attention is the kid who's holding the pointer. And then what happens, children are rolling around, and so it becomes I'm waiting. And then the other thing we did, he says, is that Clement, his name is Dr. Clements, that's his name. He said what we did then, we made them patterns. And so we do apples, and we do red apples and green apple, red apple, green apple. And he said that there's absolutely no research whatsoever that substantiates and supports the idea of understanding patterns when we do that on a calendar. The patterns are relationships in the world. If you want to help children understand patterning, the best thing you can do is actually notice where patterns exist in the world. So whether it's on your clothing, it's out when you look at the brick wall, you can see the patterns there. And the carpet, you can see the pattern in some carpet that people have. That helps them understand to look for patterns, because that's what math is. Math at the older level, as children keep growing and learning, math is about relationships and the relationships within patterns. So he says this whole thing we've done with the calendar has nothing but a waste of time. So having said all that, if you are still wanting, and in kindergarten, this is what we suggest. In preschool, I never did this. Maybe pre-K latter part of the school year, you want to capture what we did for the day. So in preschool, what this would look like, at the end of the day at circle time, I would ask children, what was an important thing we did today? To learn today. So maybe I have a list of children and all of the children, and I go down, and each day I go down the list, because kids want to know when my turn. And so I'll ask the child, okay, Amanda, tell us something important that we did today. And then she can draw the picture, or I can draw the picture, or I can write the words, because that's probably where your kiddos are developmentally. And now there are some kids at the pre-K level that this time of year, they would be starting to write some letters, maybe even the first letter of the sound, went outside, maybe she hears the S inside, so she writes. And so those are all pre-emerging skills. And so it's a good opportunity to capture. Another thing is we want them to understand time as it changes and the passage of time. And this is a good way to do that. But we want it to be authentic. We want it to be meaningful. We want it, and then the thing about it, at the end of the school year, where teachers have, they take, not the end of the school year, at the end of every month, they take all of these down and they put them together on a ring and they hang them up. So on August we did this, in September we did this, in November we did this, and they're hanging across the room, like underneath their calendar. And then it's used in their school yearbooks at the end of the year. That I won't get into this time. If I have time, I will another time. All right, so classroom jobs for all. Every child should have a job, and it needs to be meaningful jobs. And I believe I've done this because I've gone into a couple classrooms and I've already seen this on the wall. So on walls that I visited more recently. So all children need to have a job that's important. And they have them for 1 to 2 weeks, not like they have them for one day job. The other thing too, I don't talk about jobs at circle time. No one cares about anyone else's job except their own. So as they are working during that's a whole schedule thing, but as they're working during their work time, where they're busy working in the learning areas, that's the opportunity where I have children, when I've switched jobs, when I have them visit the job board to see what their new job is. I also do where they help each other transfer jobs. So if I was the person who fed the goldfish, I'm going to train the kid coming in to make sure that he knows how to follow goldfish rules, okay? So that our goldfish doesn't die. All right, we've talked about friends, so I'm going to pass over this one. And we want to give children opportunities for meaningful engagement. We want children to have opportunities to make decisions, to be able to struggle through the process of communicating with one another in ways that are intentional. So our planning is really important because we want children to think critically. We want them to want to discover and create. We want that. And in given that, we want them to be able to engage with others so they can practice the process of communicating ideas, especially if they're developing language. If you've got kiddos who are difficult to understand, they have to have lots and lots of opportunities to practice, because without the practice, they're not going to be able to develop those skills. Kiddos who struggle with language, often we see kind of we see behavioral issues just because they're frustrated. They can't say what they need. They can't say what they want successfully. So hitting works, right? I've already talked to you all about hitting works. So they need to be able to learn how to articulate more proficiently. All right, okay. So let's do this. A goodbye ritual. You want to make sure that you are saying goodbye to every child. Now, this gets crazy in most classrooms at the end of the day. You have bus riders, you have kids who are leaving with their parents, there's all kinds of scenarios here. And so you want to somehow make sure that every single kid gets a goodbye. And these are simple, see you later, alligator, take care, polar bear. It could be a fist bump, it could be an elbow bump, it could be a hug, it could be a high five. It's whatever you want it to be, but you want to make sure you acknowledge every single child. And here's another thing, I don't think I shared this with you. My more challenging kiddos, my kiddos who really need that connection, at the end of the day, I make sure. It's like one of those things like hell or high water. I make sure that I connect at that child's level, tell them one thing that he did that was amazing that day. Not from a good job, but I go, oh, do you remember you were outside and you swung so high today? You figured out how to pump your legs and go so high by yourself today. Or you ran and ran and ran until you got to the door, and you did it without me asking you to come. You knew it was time to come inside. So I tell them one thing that was like amazing. And I go, I will see you tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow. And then I do one of these rituals. So what I'm doing is I'm making connection. With connection, kids don't, there's no reason for them to pay attention to you. There's no reason for them to extend their hearts to you or open their hearts to you. You have to be the one that makes that connection. All right. So next one, I will miss you and I will be back. Teachers don't, children, when they have a good attachment with their teachers, children will freak out. Okay, let me answer the question here. Does the goodbye have to be done by the same adult? We have paras take the bus kids. They can do them, and I can do parent pickup. It doesn't have to be the same, the teacher, but let me say this. Let's say you have a kid who really has challenging behaviors, like red flag, challenging stuff going on, and he hasn't connected. He hasn't connected with teachers. He's not emotionally invested in anyone, okay? And this might be some of your kiddos who have autism, okay? It might be some of those kiddos. You are kind of the best judgment of that. But if you have a child who is not at all connected to anyone, you want to choose one grown-up who's kind of like their person. Okay, you want to choose one grown-up so that they can be their person, so that they can come to them and feel safe with them. Because what you're trying to do, it's not about me. It's not about me, the person. It's about me establishing the neural synaptic connections in the brain for love and connection. And the more consistent I can be that in who I am as an individual, in unison or union with the child, the better and the more higher the likelihood of being able to make those connections. It's the same reason why with infants, we do infants and toddlers. The research shows over and over and over again that if we keep the same caregivers, that there's an increased ability for children to have healthy attachment, particularly those who have experienced trauma. When we keep the grown-ups the same, it increases the likelihood of them developing a healthy attachment, okay? It's the same exact thing. So in your red flag situations, you want it to be the same person. So let's say I have to take the kids to the bus, and I have to take the kids to the bus. I can't be there when he leaves, so I'm going to say goodbye before I take the kids to the bus. Okay, so I'm going to do that on my way out with my 4 kids to the bus, okay? So that's a really important thing. So thank you for asking that question. All right, so I will miss you and I will be back. This particular teacher, Teacher Regina, was getting married and she was going to go on a honeymoon. So her kids, she had some kids with some pretty challenging behaviors, and they really relied on her every day, come to school. One particular boy was in foster care and had just been removed from his home. So this teacher worked diligently at making those necessary connections with him. And so we were very, very, very concerned about how he would do with another shift in his life. And that's where we started to do this, and it started to be very successful. So you want to write down, you know, it's like one of those things that you see. I got the idea from when I was an undergrad at ASU, and it's like I'm selling my couch. And so here's my phone number, and you rip it off and, you know, you've got the phone number. Now, got phones and we can take a picture. It kind of dates me, right? But it's a good way for children. Again, they don't understand tomorrow or a week from now, so you can rip off day by day so they know when their teacher is coming back. Okay? All right. So meeting the needs of all children. These are some examples of really supporting individual needs. This is really, this picture here is really speaking classrooms. In preschool classrooms, this should be built in. When we go into older classrooms, we don't see kinds of accommodations being made for children. You want to have varied seating. Sometimes we get too hung up on children sitting in chairs. Children need, we should have standing tables where children can stand. We have ones where they can sit on the floor. These two, the two black tables there are IKEA tables the teacher got for like, I think she got $5, and she got 2 of them, and then those she got from Goodwill. And so we should have spaces where children sit on the floor. We have places where they stand and can work. We get so caught up in sit down while you're working, because especially our boys, they need big body movements, and sometimes they need to be standing while they're working. These baskets, I think, are fabulous for children who need to feel that sense of safety and comfort. Something even I remember myself as a child feeling that sense of that closure. Felt, for me, it was about a sense of safety. So good ways to incorporate those types, I guess, how to support their individual needs in the classroom. All right, so meeting the needs of all children. So one of the things that we do recommend, that I have always recommended, if a kid needs a squishy ball, that he can use a squishy ball. I'm someone who has ADHD, and if you ever notice when I'm training, I'm often holding a marker. I walk around a lot. I'm one of those people that when I'm in a training as a learner, I go in with a notebook and markers and I draw everything out. So even though I'm paying attention 100%, it looks like I'm not. I'm drawing, I'm doodling, I'm drawing the notes. Now I draw notes and I draw the ideas connected to my experience and, you know, the things that I do in the classrooms or I do as a trainer or whatever. So I'm doing that now, but for years and years and years, I just doodled. I just drew whatever. And so if I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't be listening. I would just be, because I learned, I was trained in elementary school to look straight ahead at the teacher and not pay one bit of attention to what she was saying. I could be thinking about all the stuff that I want to do out on the playground. I could be thinking as an adult, I could be thinking about the shopping list that I have. And so just because children are looking at me doesn't mean that they're actually paying attention. So we need to be mindful of the children who need some extra support, like a wiggle spot or wiggle seat and a squishy ball. These sensory bottles are really cool to have in a safe place or to have in the classroom, just to be able to, for children to be able to kind of get lost in the movement of the water. It really is calming and soothing. And so let me go on to the next one, because I want to tell you about the goldfish and the bunny. I may have done this already with you guys, but I'll do it anyway. So the goldfish and the bunny, we want, one of the things that teachers say to me is that children, if one child gets a squishy ball, they're all going to want a squishy ball. And what I say to that is this is how I do it. I say to children, I'm going to buy a goldfish, and I'm going to go to the pet store and I'm going to buy a goldfish. What do I need for the goldfish? And so they start to come up with ideas. You know, they come up with, you need a bowl, fish bowl, you need water, you need the rocks that go at the bottom, you need fish food. And so we make a list, because that's that whole emergent writing. What I'm doing is capturing the spoken language and I'm writing it on chart paper. So I always had an easel with chart paper, not a painting easel, but a teacher easel with chart paper at my circle time, because I want to, as many times as I can, I want to capture my spoken words on that paper or their ideas on that paper. So I write down buy goldfish and then things that I need. And then I, as a child speaks, you know, Amanda, I write Amanda, and what's your idea? What do I need? And I write that down. And then I do the next kid, write their name and then write down their idea. So I go, okay, so if I'm going to buy all of these things, and I go to the list for the goldfish, then I'll just pick up 2 of everything, because I think I'm going to get a bunny too. And of course it's going, no, you can't get that's not going to work for a bunny. And so I go, okay, what do we need for a bunny? And then we recognize that their needs are very, very different. And so when we can help them identify that every child gets what they need, then we can help them understand that Johnny needs the squishy ball. You're not a kid who needs a squishy ball. You're able to do this. Johnny needs a squishy ball. And the squishy balls are available during their work time. The kids can use them at another time, but at circle time, Johnny is the one who needs a squishy ball. Okay. All right. I'll see if I can send you guys this link for this video. It's actually really nice about fidgets and the importance of fidgets. All right. So, self-awareness. I'm going to go right into self-awareness, into the activities. All right. So, self-awareness is the ability, well, it's understanding what I'm feeling. It's understanding what I feel in terms of labeling it. So I'm feeling a certain way, and that certain way is frustration. That certain way is feeling that I'm irritated, that I'm sad, that I'm annoyed. Self-awareness has to come before self-regulation, okay? Self-regulation is wanting to hit. Self-regulation is getting frustrated and pushing somebody or throwing something. The ability to be able to manage their physical bodies is in part what self-regulation is. But we can't do that piece. We can't take care of that piece unless the child's aware of what they're feeling, okay? So that has to come before self-regulation. Now, the first part here is that you just have to know little kids are what we call, they're optimistic. They're learning optimists. What that means is that they see themselves as able to do anything. I don't know if you've ever had like a 3-year-old, tell you that they can ride or can do something that like a professional can do. I used to get my kids like a basketball player. Now I can, in my day it was Michael Jordan and then, Kobe Bryant and like the big great players. Yeah, I can do that just like him. I can do that. I don't know if anyone experienced that, but a lot of my kiddos had this idea that they could like fly like Superman. And it's just a good thing for them to have, because what that means when we nurture that, that they can see themselves as someone who can, that they can see themselves that they can get through challenges, that they can face them and be successful as they move through them. This is something we want children to maintain as they move beyond our early childhood years, okay? The next one is we want children to identify call what it is that they're feeling. Now, a couple things. You want to use the term, you're feeling frustrated, not you are frustrated, okay? And what I usually say is, it looks like you might be feeling frustrated. I would say 90% of the time say it looks like be feeling, because I don't know for sure. I'm making a guess here. So it looks like you might be feeling frustrated. It looks like you might be feeling sad. I'm going to go further and deeper into that. What I say is, I see tears running down your face. I'm wondering if you might be feeling sad right now. Okay, so I describe what I see and that you might be feeling. The reason why I say you are frustrated, sad, is because you're definitive. And it gets a little bit scary when we get kids when, they're kind or they're helpful. You are helpful, you are kind, because there are a lot of kids who become grown-ups who have taken that ownership of I am kind, I am friendly, I am, and they don't know how not to be that because it's defined who they are. Okay, and so that's why we want children to recognize that feelings change. Another reason why we do this is because when we do have children who have some social emotional concerns, and then it grows mental issues, mental concerns, mental illness concerns, that one of the biggest issues that come up at that level is that they're hopeless and helpless. And so we want all children to recognize that feelings change. It's an ebb and flow. Things are good, things are not so good. Things will change though over time too. It's kind of like what we're experiencing now, right? You might be feeling anxiety, you might be feeling sadness, you might be feeling frustration, you might be feeling all these things, but feelings change. They do. And one moment we might feel good and the next minute not. And so recognizing that I can get through this. So we're helping children identify what it is by helping them name. Now, having said that, I don't use angry. Okay, I don't get angry because anger is a secondary emotion. It's not a primary emotion. If you unearth anger, if you look at anger underneath it, oftentimes it's fear, frustration, irritation. Anger is the way we express it because it's big and it makes us feel strong and powerful. So I try to get down to the root of what I might be feeling. And I do use terms like frustration, irritated, anxious. And so I try to define that for them by showing them what they look like. So your eyes look like this, your lips hanging like this, why you might show them and then help them identify or name what that might be. Now, one of the best things I did as a classroom teacher is I used to take pictures of kiddos. And I used to have them pick one of those emotions. So I would pick I would have all of them listed. Frustrated, scared, sad, irritated, happy. And I'm pretty sure I shared this with you, that those of us who come from trauma, happiness sometimes is a very difficult emotion for us to be able to allow ourselves to feel without waiting for the other shoe to drop. Joy for those of us who come from trauma comes with the expectation that things are going to go shit. Okay? So being in a joyful experience for kids who come from that experience or that circumstance in their life, it's like they're expecting something bad to happen, so they sabotage it. They make it bad before it gets bad. Okay? So joy is something that you want to include. Joy, happiness, excitement, all of the entire gamut of emotions. And what I have them do is one, and they give me the facial expression, and I take a picture of it. And then I take a picture of them with just smiling, just like their normal picture, and I say something in there, and I make a book out of it, is what I do. I said, Joshua was feeling frustrated, but feelings change, and now he feels whatever. He can choose happy or joyful or whatever. He can choose that part. And so the book was feelings change, and now I'm feeling, or Joshua is feeling, and then fill in the blank. Okay? So, because it's to capture feelings change. All right, next one. I got a chat. Does the goodbye have to be done? But no, we did that one already. Oh, I thought I had another. I don't. Okay. All right, so for learning optimism, I've already shared a little bit about this, but this is what I want you to take away with this particular topic. We want children to recognize that learning is a process. They're not like magically smart. It's a process of just figuring things out. That's really the science of learning, right? It's just figuring things out. And so what I teach children to say is, I'm still learning how to. So I'm still learning how to tie my shoe. You help me. I'm still learning how to write my name. You show me the letters of my name. I'm still learning how to buckle up my jacket. Can you help me? This idea of I'm still learning how to feeds into the growth mindset understanding that we're continuing to grow, continuing to learn, and it's just a process. It doesn't make you incompetent. It doesn't make you incapable, because for some children, particularly the rise of anxiety that's happening today with our kiddos, and it didn't start when they were 12, it started when they were younger, this need to be perfect. This need to get it just right. They don't want to do it at all. So we want to kind of set these seeds in and plant seeds of this idea of still learning how to. This is also the conversations I have with adults about children. He's still learning how to use, he's still learning how to say what he needs. He's still learning how to ask for help. He's still learning how to take a deep breath and then ask for if he can play. So it's a conversation, it's a script that I use even when I talk to parents. So I go, he's still learning how to find the words to be able to say what he needs. And so sometimes he forgets and he'll push. And so one of the things we're working on is this. Okay? All right. All right, so next one. We want to help children be able to express themselves completely. What I mean by that is that children come to school being literate based on their life experience in terms of social emotional development. So they're literate in their home. Our job, and they come with varied experiences. And like in my home, especially if you're a boy in my family, you don't get to feel strong emotions. Like sadness and overwhelm and fear, and I don't mean my personal home, but my extended family. Like the little boys shamed for that. They were like, why are you acting like a big baby? Why are you crying? You're a big boy. Big boys don't cry. And the problem with that is we disconnect children from the emotional state of being, and they learn the message that feeling what they feel is not okay. So what happens is they start to stuff those feelings inside them. They don't know what to do with them. And the way that it manifests and the way it shows up is that they are disconnected emotionally, and they sometimes can be aggressive. They sometimes can have sort of explosive experiences, or they disconnect and disengage completely. And so we have done that to our men particularly, not just men, but very often we see this with young boys. And then we, as women, if you have a man in your life, we become frustrated because they're not able to express themselves from an emotional state of being. Well, that message then didn't happen when they were 22 years old. That happened when they were very young. So we want children to be able to learn to identify what it is that they're feeling and give them permission to feel it. So we need to stop with the, why are you crying? You're a big boy or big girl. Babies cry. You're not a baby, are you? We need to stop all of that. That's actually shaming behavior. And we need to invite children in to recognize what they're feeling. And when we recognize it and give them the language for it and provide a safe place for them to experience that, they actually start to move through those emotions in a healthier way. And that's what we want. The other piece of this, what we know for sure, is that the longer period of time that children have been instructed to disconnect from the emotional state of being, what happens is that they don't know what to do with their emotions. And so they use distraction as a way to deal with it. Sometimes, and I've shared this over the computer, it could be food, it could be drugging, it could be alcohol, it could be mutilation. There are lots of things that we do to keep ourselves from feeling. Okay, and so it starts when they're very little, the first 5 years in life. So our messages have to be, it is a safe place for you to feel what you feel. And we have to be willing to be comfortable with their discomfort. And that's the other thing that's very, very hard, is we have to give permission for children to feel sadness. And I'll give you just a quick story. My daughter, all of our kids, and you all teachers are probably experiencing something very similar, trying to figure out how do we do life right now, right? How do we connect with our children? How do our children, and you guys have littles, my kid's 12. And so her school's doing an amazing job at how they've approached this whole distance learning thing. Amazing. I've been so thankful. Having said all that, she gets an assignment. She doesn't understand what it is. And she goes into a full-on meltdown. I mean, like complete and total meltdown, crying and distressed about she didn't know she needed to turn it in, and what if it's right? And and she got to the point where she's like, I miss school. I just want to go to school. I want to see my teachers. I want to ask the questions. I want to see my friends. And it was just a complete and total meltdown. And what happens is we want to solve it. We want to fix it. We want to make it better. We're uncomfortable with those emotions sometimes, especially if you didn't get the message that it's okay to feel these big emotions. And I mean, she cried for quite a time. And so what I did was I did what's called holding space. I allowed for her to feel what she feels. And to be that safe haven for her to be able to come into me for a hug and connection that she needs. It's no different than the 5-year-old who's frustrated because he wants to go home, or he didn't get to use the bike, or that he wants to do something and he didn't get a turn. So we want to make sure that we give children the space and the safety of feeling what they feel. Okay? All right. So here's the script for that. Active listening. Now, it's an activity we would have done in our group, and maybe we did it. I'm not sure if we did it or not, but try this the next time you're talking with one of your family members, because, you know, when we're in quarantine and we're with the same people every day, I'm sure that's been a lot of fun, right? There's only 3 of us in my family, and quarantine, when I explained to my daughter what it meant to be in quarantine, she says to me, "Isn't that how we normally live?" I was like, "Yeah, pretty much," because I'm a hermit. And so it really hasn't been a whole lot of change in my life. But when you are listening to someone talk, okay, so you're listening to someone in your home, try this today, and notice where your thoughts go. So if somebody says, even like the question talking about dinner or what we're going to do for whatever, notice where your thoughts go. Are you really listening to what they're saying, or do you kick into your idea, your thoughts, what you want to eat, what you want to say, how to fix the problem? Notice where your thoughts are. Because when we're actively listening, we learn to silence that chatter and be fully present with the child. Okay, or the adult, because this is not a child strategy. This is an all age strategy. And so you pay attention to what it is they're truly trying to say. So the script here is, and I've shared this with you, of this first part, you might be feeling frustrated because you really wanted to be next. You wanted to use the cards next. Okay, and so just stating that says, I hear you. Far often when a child is feeling something, we go right into solving the problem. We go right into, well, he was using it first and you can have it afterwards. And why are you so upset? You've been using it all along. He didn't get a turn yet. And so we go right into the rationale, the reason why he shouldn't be upset about it. And so you want to help children. Well, you want to, first off, you're modeling big time for the children how to be an active listener. But what you're saying is, I hear you, I see you. This is what you wanted. This is what you want to do. This is how you're feeling about it. Now, I do not ask children, how do you feel? I don't do that at this point in the game. And the reason is because, first off, boys don't think in feelings. Just in general, they don't think in feelings. So I might say, it looks like you might be feeling frustrated, like it says here, but I'm not going to say, how do you feel about that? Because for some children, it's hard, particularly boys, to make that connection because they're into thinking about the problem, not feeling into the problem, okay? So I'm just helping them label it and then moving through the experience, okay? So this practice here, try it with the people in your home. The practice of, I'm wondering if you might be feeling frustrated because you really wanted to have chicken for dinner and there is no chicken. Or you really wanted to go out to eat tonight, especially if you've got kiddos and let's say you go out to eat once a week and you've not been able to do that recently. And so you go, I know you really wanted to have pizza tonight. I know you love pizza. You love it so much. And it feels very overwhelming that we can't go anywhere right now. And so we want to validate what it is that they're experiencing. Okay. Next one. Okay, we can't do that. Okay, so actually, I'm not going to do that one. Okay, so yes. All right. So there should be a space for children to hang their own art or their own work. Okay. And so it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just like this one on the top right side. This particular teacher just had a space on the wall. That's it. It was just for our work. And whatever drawings they had, whatever that they created, it's a space, offer tape to them, and it's a space for them to hang up their own work. And the reason is because this classroom is our classroom. It's not your classroom. It's not your classroom. It's everybody's classroom. And so we want children to have a place where they can celebrate their own work and be proud of it. Now, the one on the top left is one that I had in the model classroom. And in some classrooms, teachers have done this where they have a designated space throughout the whole room. So they have it like behind furniture, on a wall, behind a door, or at a door. So it's dispersed through the entire room where a child has their space with their picture. And so they can put one thing up and then they can take it down and put the next thing up. Because what happens sometimes, especially if you have a lot of artists, sometimes you get a lot of artists and they like to draw and draw and draw. And then you have like 8,000 things on a wall, right? And so you want to, if you want to limit that, you can just provide one space for a child to put their stuff up. The other thing too that comes up, you just have to, whatever your rules are about fire marshal, just do what you need to do in terms of fire marshal. Every fire marshal is different. Everyone has a different opinion of what it should look like in every single school district. So follow your fire marshal rules. Don't get fired for doing that, putting your stuff up. All right. Okay, I'm flipping through here because either it's kindergarten or older, or it's just not, we're not going to do it right now. I'm going to send you all this via Shara. I'm going to send you 2 of these. This language are the scripts, and I may have already sent you scripts, and if I have, then, do with what you want, do whatever you want with them. But this is the one sheet that I did that helps develop your language, reframing language. So it's the way that we can approach children and support them as we're learning how to communicate with them in terms of their social and emotional development. We want children to stay optimistic. We want children to be able to identify what they're feeling. We want children to grow a deep sense of self-awareness. What are they good at? That's the other piece of self-awareness. What are they good at? What are their strengths? The other thing about self-awareness that's really interesting is they start to recognize that I'm different than you. They start to recognize that. Like when they're younger, it's like, everybody likes chocolate. What do you mean you don't like chocolate? Everybody likes chocolate because I like chocolate. And so they start to recognize that you have differing perspectives than my own. It's a developmental part of their growing up. All right, so let me ask you this. Did somebody have a question? All right. So let me stop and check in with everybody. And so we'll stop here and check in. If we have any questions, do we go till 4? We go till 4? Okay. All right. So I'll do a little bit in self-regulation. And we might actually, I have a session that's scheduled. I don't know if everyone got it. I have a session that's scheduled for the environment next Thursday. I thought we'd just do 1-hour deals for the environment, but I can do the next part, the next 2 parts on the social emotional piece, and then push the following into the environment. So I'm more than willing to do that if there are people who are interested in that. Do I have any questions or thoughts about this so far? And you can just unmute yourself and talk. Is this presentation available to view later? I don't usually give my presentations out, but I will see if I can pull the slides that I used and then put them into a PDF and send them to you. Okay, I just ask that you don't share them. And the reason why I don't share my presentations is because I have literally been to state conferences where my entire presentation was lifted by other trainers from big organizations. And I'm standing at the back of the room or sitting in the room, because this has happened several times to me, and they're literally reading and using my slides. And I sit there like, what is happening here? Like, I'm pretty sure I created that.
I did take notes through the presentation, so I'm not sure who asked that question, but I linked my notes in Schoology just like I've done kind of throughout the year. So just kind of the highlights and the key takeaways. So it's in Schoology right now.
Okay, so Shara, are you okay? Because this is all, it's not mandatory, so it's optional for people to. So for the next Thursday that we have scheduled, if anybody wants to come, I'll go over the next section or 2 sections.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. And so on that, and we'll just do, so I want to just share with everybody with the environment piece. We're going to go through talking about each area. We're going to talk about general classroom design, and then, and how a classroom should be arranged. And then I will go through each area and talk about the area specifically. Okay, so you can ask questions and that kind of thing. So are there any questions about any of this so far? And again, all you have to do is unmute if you want to ask a question or. Geez, we got a lot of people. So I want just to tell you that there are other parts to this. I think that we have, I think as I was going through this, I remember sharing some of it with you all, but it's okay because I think that first off, there are people probably on here that came in later in the school year because I met one or two people that were hired recently in the last couple months. And so having that so that everybody kind of hears the same message. I think the nice thing too is just to review, because you may have picked up on a few things that we talked about before, and now you're ready for the next couple things. And so now you're like, oh yes, I did that. Now I'm ready for the next 2 or 3 things that I can implement when the school year starts. That building community piece, I'm telling you, at the beginning of the school year, you commit to that. Commit to really building that sense of community. The next piece is the self-regulation piece. And then beyond that is the social parts of how do we support children in terms of their social engagement, okay? All right. We all need to learn more social emotional. The more we learn and teach, the more children grow. Thank you, thank you, thank you for those words, Rhoda. It's important, I think. And you know, the truth of it is it takes practice and time. It really does. It's not just a one-shot deal. It doesn't kind of magically happen. And so we'll all work on some of the language. I'll send you that growth mantra. I'll send that so that you can send it out to everyone. And then I also have, I don't know if I sent you all the ones that are separated out where you put around your classroom, and it helps you as a visual reminder for you to reframe your language. Because most of us were not trained to say, let me help you, let's figure out how to solve this problem. Or what can we do next? Or what will be the first thing you do? Like most of us don't have that language just because we weren't trained that way. And so this will help as a visual reminder to help you remember to do that when you're working with kiddos. Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you, everybody, for being here today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all very, very much. We'll go ahead and stop there. And again, next, I think we're just doing an hour on next Thursday, right? And we'll just keep trudging along. And
Thank you.
We'll go as far as we can go. And yeah, so I hope everyone has a good rest of your week and that you are healthy and safe and yeah, and doing well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Is Paris on here?
I have.
Do you have parents on here too?
Yes.
Yes.
We did, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
So perfect. Yes.
So that going through what I just did really was good, right? Because
Yes.
we
It was perfect.
would normally be in our sessions.
Yes.
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 Thank you, paraprofessionals,
Thank you.
for showing up. Yay, I'm so glad.
Yes.
Yay, that's
Thank you so much.
And they're invited to all of the sessions that we do like this. So, and then we'll post the recording so that people can see it too. But I'm really excited. Yeah.
Yeah, this is very, very good. So
It's
most,
actually really good. Yeah. It really
yeah, I'm so excited about this now.
Yeah.
Not that you all weren't important. we don't usually get
more.
signals. Yeah.
Yeah. So this will be helpful on, just all the pieces. So yeah, thank you.
What did you order?
So we will, next week, we'll go through self-regulation and then look at the social piece and get as far as we can there, okay? So you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, okay?
Thank you.
Bye.
I'll send you the hyperlink, Sharon, once
Okay.
it downloads. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.